free to get up and continue to eat. So it's pretty informal here, but I want to just welcome everybody. I know everyone is here for a variety of reasons, but really our hope tonight is that you guys just get inspired just to not only look a certain way and feel a certain way, but really just be healthy and live out your best life. So that is our hope for tonight, that literally you walk out of here transformed by just the renewing of our mind and really what health is, what your potential is, and really what your body's capable of doing or looking a certain way. So I know that everyone is here for, like I said, many different reasons, but we really have to understand really what health really is. So before Leland even talks about how to burn fat or how to really earn a certain physique look, we really have to understand when it comes to health, because here's the reality is everybody wants to be healthy, but what do you think the average person bases your health on? How you look, right? We live in a very visual society, especially with social media and everything that I agree does. Like everyone's like, if I want to look like that. And we're going to get to that in just a second, but I guess you guys should probably look at some notes. So if you guys don't mind passing this out. So these notes are very, you can take it home and review everything that we're saying. So I really made it easy for you, but there are 4 things absolutely necessary to survive. Number 1, food. So these are in ascending order of importance. So the reason I say that food is, hey Leanne, would you mind shutting that? Thanks. How long can you live without food? Me, not very long. But if I had to, how long? 30 days, right?
70 days.
About 30 days, about a month. So although food's important, when it comes to health, food isn't everything, okay? Number 2 is water. How long can you live without water?
7 days.
About 3 or 4 days, exactly. Number 3 is air, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a minute if you're trained, maybe up to 3 minutes. So you know, obviously air is more important. That's why exercise is critical. Number 4 is nerve supply. So if you cut the nerve that goes to your heart, what happens to your heart instantly? Belief or fact? That's an absolute, right? And so when it comes to health, Jesse said everyone kind of bases our health on how we look or how we feel, but really when it comes to the expression of life within, we have to understand that nerve supply. So as much as eating good is important and as much as exercise is important, we really have to understand how God created your body to heal and perform at a cell level. So when we talk about preventing heart disease, when you talk about fighting cancer, when you talk about curing things like diabetes and arthritis, the reality is you have to understand the simplicity of how God created your body to heal. So we want everyone to look good, but more importantly, I don't want you to just have a 6-pack and die in your 40s, right? Or have a heart attack when you're 56. The reality is we want you to have a 6-pack because you want a 6-pack, but we want you to live long and live out your potential. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Yeah, and so does your family, right? And so when you look at this, the World Health Organization, well, let me ask you this. So, again, we base our health on how we look or how you feel. Unfortunately, those of us in America, which is all of us, the top killers are the diseases that, guess what? You don't feel, right? So raise your hands and do it with me if you or someone you know has ever had any type of heart disease or any type of cancer. You know that those 2 diseases kill over 5 out of 6 Americans. Kill. That's not, or taking high blood pressure medications and living to talk about it, or having a stroke and coming out the other side. It's 5 out of 6 people are dying from either heart disease or cancer. Do you think we need to wake up when it comes to how does your heart actually function and how do we get it stronger and building a machine that got created in the first place? Yeah? So we can understand how we can live out that potential. Okay? So the World Health Organization says health is 100% function of your body mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually, not simply the absence of a sickness or disease. So health isn't how I look, it's not how I feel, but health is 100% function of your body, okay? And so when we look at the function of our body, we know that God put the most amazing healing power in your brain and spinal cord. Dave, you know that. So for your heart to beat, for your body to fight cancer or COVID, for your immune system to be 100%, for your GI tract to work at 100%, for your muscles to get lean and defined, life comes from your brain, runs down your spinal cord and across your nerves. What are all those? Yeah, they're your organs, right? Organs, tissue, cells, muscles, joints, they don't know what to do without the brain talking life. Because if I cut off the head, what happens to all your organs?
They die.
So as much as I work out the muscle, if you decrease how your brain talks life through your nerve system, how do you think your muscles are going to work? How about your heart? How about your GI tract? Right? It's not going to be at 100%. And so you have to have this constant communication and life and life flow between the brain and the body. So anything that the body needs, so when you're pumping muscles or when you're increasing your heart rate or your body's trying to adapt to a certain germ or bacteria, your body talks up to the brain the same way your brain talks life through your nervous system. There's that constant flow there. Make sense? And so when you look at, never mind, not even going to go there. So when you look at, that's why when a chiropractor might look at the spine and nerve system, because we understand that, hey, this is important. This isn't just like a belief system, because I hear it all the time. Well, I tried chiropractic 3 years ago. It didn't work for me. Or my aunt got hurt. Or, I just don't believe in it. Are we talking about a belief system, or are we talking about an absolute?
It's an absolute.
It's an absolute, Crystal. So if I cut off the head, absolutely your body does? Yeah. Or how about, let's say I don't cut off the head, but let's say I just put interference on the nerve that goes to your heart. I tug on it, or I pinch it, or I pull it, right? And so that's why when we look at the spine and nerve system, for those of us that are even patients in this room, we have to make sure that it's lined up a certain way, okay? Because that is meant to surround and protect how your brain can communicate that life and healing. Okay, if the bone's out of place, let's say through whiplash, through, working out wrong, through bad posture, through your job. I love what I do, but I'm bending over people all day long. I love CrossFit, but my posture probably sucks, right? I've been walking on a bum ankle for a month. My posture stinks with that, all right? So the reality is, like, when I move the bones off the right position, that puts pressure and interferes with how your brain can transmit those life signals. So wherever that nerve goes, then we get a sick heart, we get a sick back, we get a sick kidney, we get a sick muscle, we get a sick leg. Make sense? So our goal here tonight is making sure that biomechanically that you're lined up so your body can perform at a certain level, but more importantly, that health is there. So when it comes to your greatest asset, which is your health, is that something you want to be proactive with or reactive with? Proactive with. So tonight's approach is just how to be proactive with one of the greatest assets that is given to us by our God. Make sense? Okay. Moving on. All right, so again, to just lose weight, the goal isn't just to get lighter and be a certain size 2 or whatever. The goal is, there's herbs, there's drugs, there's obviously fad diets all over the place, but we don't want to get you just lighter, we want to make you healthier. Okay, so in order to get fit and lose weight, we have to lose body fat and gain lean muscle. So we want to get leaner, not just get lighter. Okay? So for those of us that might be over, let's say, a certain age, I'm not even going to say that age because I'm actually 40 as well, but let's say they notice in people as even old as 100 years old, they notice that just a few sessions in an exercise routine, number one, that arthritis got better, osteoporosis started reversing, insulin levels became more optimal, and heart improved in function within just a few minutes, okay? So for some of us that might even be taking medications in this room, or for those of our family members that suffer from certain disease processes, literally if you can commit to even 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of exercise a day, that might be some of the healthiest minutes of your entire day, that your body actually starts to reverse that disease process, which is a really cool thing, because when you talk about longevity, right, we want a bunch of centurions in this room. You know what that means? All right, 11 to 100. And so you're never too old to get started. The minute you start exercising, you actually become healthier. And one of the amazing facts, and what Lena is going to go over in just a few minutes, if you reach certain thresholds and actually go beyond that, and that's just from a health perspective, but when you reach certain thresholds or even go beyond that even up to 36 hours after a certain exercise routine, your body can still be burning fat from that one workout. So who would like to work out maybe less or less often, for those of us that are very busy or like only have a certain time to commit to that? If you do it right and do it correctly, that you don't have to work out hours a day, every day of the week, just to actually start burning fat and becoming more, balancing out your hormones, okay? So we're gonna get into that in just a few minutes, but as far as diseases go, the Center Disease said that the top killers in our country, or the top 4 diseases on their on the American chart, number 1, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and arthritis. They said these are what they consider the top 4 are, quote, diseases for dummies, because what they say, you have to let your body degenerate so much to actually build this disease. So what they said, you literally, 70 to 82% of the top diseases in our country are completely preventable simply through lifestyle. So that's why we're here tonight. We're going to talk about exercise. Our next advanced workshop, we're going to be talking about food, how to fuel your body, not only just move it, but how to fuel your body in a way where you can actually decrease inflammation and just get it working for you, the right, macros and all that stuff. So we're going to be talking about that in just a few minutes, or on our next one. But again, when we look at, and I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you do too, but like when we look at the top, things that might be experiencing in our families, like heart disease runs in my family, or obesity runs in my family, or diabetes, of course I have it, or migraines, my mom had it, everybody in my family has it. They said like more than your genetics and more than bad lucks, it's lifestyle, okay? And so that's, again, all the more reason to make sure that we just adopt a good lifestyle. So no matter how old you are, or even how late in the disease process, you might be experiencing something, that it's really never too late to get started, and really that's what we're here for tonight. We always say at our office that lifestyle plus lifeline, which is this, equals lifespan. So you have to do both. You can't completely be committed to a lifestyle, but have a nerve choking going in my heart, right? Or vice versa. Those of us patients, we can't make sure that this is 100%, but I'm poisoning my body, or I'm fueling it like crap, or I'm not moving and I'm inadequate at taking in oxygen. The reality is you have to have both. Lifestyle plus lifeline equals how long our lifespan can be, okay? So, just to debunk some of the myths, maybe some of the reasons why some of us in this room, or somebody, people that we've known, because we hear it all the time, debunk some of the myths that people might have against exercise. Number 1, it hurts. Well, if you go to his class, it might hurt. I'm kidding. It's actually, if you do the right exercise the right way, movement is supposed to be enjoyable. For those of you women who have ever been, pregnant, that's one of the most natural things a baby does, right? You feel your baby kick. Movement is natural in the womb and obviously out of the womb. So we want to make sure that we become very efficient at being alive. So not only is it, important, but obviously we talked about before, prevents a lot of and reverses a lot of the degenerative processes that have been going on for a long time. Exercise myth number 2, it takes hours, right? Probably the number 1 reason that we hear is that I don't have time, right? You don't have to have a ton of time. In fact, some of the hardest workouts are just a few minutes, okay? And so really just a few minutes, committed a few minutes, the right program, the right intensity can really not only change everything with your health, but really make a difference when it comes to your physique. Exercise myth number 3, exercise can be performed in only a gym or extensive home equipment. We know that that's not true. All you need is full body movement with just your body weight. Again, some of the hardest workouts we do just are your own body weight. Man, I didn't realize that was so heavy. But that's what functional fitness is all about, right? So when we're living at home with our spouse, when we're 90 years old in our own home, you drop a whatever, you want to be able to pick it up, right? You want to reach down and get the jug of milk. You want to be able to carry your own groceries, and those are just functional movements. And so it's right now, it's just body movement with your body weight. Any questions so far? I'll go quiet. Okay, number 4. Why don't we think right? Who is number 707765? That's me. Who dat? Lene? Why are you embarrassed? Thank you. Good job. You're welcome. Oh, everyone got excited about it. Who is number 707766? Yeah, girl.
What is this?
What is this? It wasn't you.
I never would.
Just because it was her. All right, we're doing 2 more. Who is number 707755?
Oh, right here.
707755. 757. Oh, sorry. Last one. 707750. Okay. Ooh, better not. They're not that heavy. They might float. I don't know. All right, we have more. So don't worry, Peter, your time might be coming. Well, don't say that. Now you might not. Number 4. Okay, exercises for young people, healthy people, or muscle heads, or people that look like lean. We know exercise, any kind, is essential. And in fact, we talked about centurions and people that live in the blue zones. Not only do they have an incredible anti-inflammatory diet, but people that live over, like not just like 1 or 2 people over 100, like regions of people that live to be over 100 years old. One of the things is between their nutrition, but they literally have jobs into their 80s. They're riding horses when they're 100. So movement is a very critical part of their lifestyle. And so is it a wonder why they have a different life expectancy than maybe Americans? There's no wonder why there. Okay. Number 5, exercise myth number 5, exercise for people who want big muscles or want to look good in a bikini or Speedo. That's actually true. But if you want to look good in a bikini or Speedo, you do need to exercise, but obviously we know exercise is for survival. Okay, so just a few things to help motivate us. Fat versus muscle tendencies. Fat cells produce more fat cells, where muscle cells produce more muscle mass. Fat cells are inefficient at burning calories. Muscle cells are efficient and burns more calories. So 1 pound of muscle burns 50 calories at rest. So the more lean muscle you have, the more you're just naturally like that hot, fiery furnace, like your body just burning calories. You're not even doing it, you're breathing, right? Which is pretty cool. Fat cells produce you to be tired and lazy. Muscle cells create energy. Of course, when you're bigger, you have a poor self-image. Muscle, you have increased confidence, increased sex drive. Fat cells increase risk to almost every disease. Muscle tendencies decrease risk to all disease. So fat cells not only do they make you chubby, but they actually store toxins. So any toxins, whether it's our diet, whatever, all the things that can toxify us, your body naturally knows that this will kill you, so it actually stores it in its fat cells, which is pretty cool. It's an innate thing, right? For your survival. So the more fat cells we have, a lot of times, especially us women, who kind of get that layer that we just can't get rid of, a lot of times that's just a toxic layer, right? We're going to talk about that. So not only exercise is a great form of detox, but obviously if we have to further look at a detox mechanism, then we can do that as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. Quick fitness facts. The more fit you are, you have a lowered set point. So again, I'm picking on a female because I am one and I understand how we think and how we are. So a lot of times when we kind of like, we do really good and then we kind of hit this plateau and you just can't quite seem to budge that last 10 or 15 pounds. The more fit you become, your body desires to be at a lower set point, right? So it's like, instead of like, whatever, it's like instead of 170, now it's now 155. And that last 15 pounds really, right? You do the right things and then all of a sudden that weight goes away, okay? So it has a lowered set point. You have a decreased appetite, particularly for negative food categories. If you do a hard 20-minute workout here, you don't crave a Big Mac and a fry, typically, right? Okay, sometimes, but innately your body knows that it doesn't want to poison itself, okay? So decreased appetite for the negative food categories. You have increased metabolic rate, of course. You increase lean muscle to body fat ratio. So you have less of that like double wave, right? The more fit you are, you have less of that. You tend to retain lean muscle and you get more energy to all your organs, and of course it's great for weight control. So, almost done. We're almost getting to the landing part where it's going to show us how to exercise. But number 707767. Hi. Long sleeve or short sleeve?
Short.
No pressure, it's a muscle tank. All right, who is number 707753? Yeah, girl. Or My bad. 707-765. 464. Good job. Detox pack. So one cool thing with this. So I'll go over instructions with how to use that. But that, you detox the cells because our cells become very toxic, but then also your GI tract is meant to absorb all the stuff that is floating around. So it actually detoxes the colon as well. So usually most detoxes, you actually absorb about 70% of all the toxins that your body like purges. So you really don't usually detox a whole lot at the end of the day, but that helps you detox all of it. So it's a 30-day supply. So those are really cool. I live on that. Because I like coffee and a lot of other things that I probably shouldn't have. Benefits of exercise. This is where it kind of gets exciting too. So exercise regulates your blood sugar better than medications, by the way. It increases our bone density. It strengthens our muscles, of course. It immunity strengthens. Well, how does that happen? So if you have a piece of raw meat, what do you have to do to get rid of the bacteria? Yeah, you gotta cook it, right? So you raise the temperature. So what do you think our body has to do to get rid of any pathogen, germ, or virus? Yeah, so in a season where fevers are, right? Our fevers are a good thing. Yeah, fevers are a good thing, right? So what happens if your body doesn't raise the fever and you have something harmful or something that can kill you in it? It doesn't go away, but you go away, right? Yeah, so that's bad news for you. So fevers are a really good thing. So every time you exercise, it's almost producing like a mini fever, right? Sweating, right? This is a good thing. So fevers are a good thing. So this is one reason why exercise just really helps strengthen that immunity, keep that stuff at bay. Yeah. No,
you're going through menopause and you are on fire. Are you burning muscle?
Yeah, we wish. Yeah, we wish. I can actually talk to you about that later. Just a second. It's kind of like when you're like, I remember like studying for school and like all the, like, how do you get tired just studying? Are you burning energy? No, you're not actually burning calories. You wish you were, but. Okay, so exercise, of course, helps you avoid certain diseases, most diseases, I should say. And it helps eliminate toxins, reduce stress, improve sleep, strengthens our heart, of course, increases our confidence. So this is really cool. While exercising, you can read through a lot of this. Some of it's redundant. But here's a cool thing too. Speaking of diets, so all of those unhealthy habits that maybe we don't, that we have now, but even like we've had the last 20, 30, 40 years, and all that saturated fat, right, of everything that, so anything is basically, so we talk about like food by God versus food by man, totally different. So all the fat that's in the food by man, that like man creates in a factory that we know we shouldn't have, but we think we can get away with, right? All that saturated fat, this is something like food by man is what we call like dumb food. So your body, all that oil in that fat, or that food I should say, your body doesn't know what to do with. So because it's dumb, your body doesn't even recognize it, because it's hydrogenated oils, what it does is it lodges itself in the arteries, okay? So plaque in your arteries is normal, but the more crap we eat over the decades that we live, right? Now you have all this plaque that our body has no idea what to do with it. You know the only way to get rid of saturated fat? Exercise. Pretty sweet, right? So your body is extremely forgiving because it will protect you, but there is a certain point where we really have to wake up and be like, I really gotta start trying to maybe keep at bay or even start to undo a lot of the degenerative processes that I've allowed over the last however long, okay? So one way to get rid of saturated fat, start exercising. So when you look at even a conditioned man, so look, the next section is on blood pressure. When you look at a conditioned man, let's say a conditioned man, his heart beats around 60 beats per minute. An unconditioned person, maybe 80 beats per minute. That's a difference of 30,000 beats per day. It's one tired heart after even a day. Now you do that over, right? How many years, how many decades, right? And that's a lot of the reason why that is the #1 killer in our country. Signs of oxygen depletion. Basically, whether you're not, you're choking yourself to death. #1 is chronic infections, a lot of allergies, poor immune function, fatigue. fatigue, injury, and joint pain. Sound familiar? Might be why you're here. All right. Amazing benefits to movement. So in closing, this portion, again, some of this might be redundant, but elevates bone mass. So some of us that as we age, your bone mass tends to decrease, right? So things like osteoporosis, osteopenia. The number one thing they tell you to do if you're diagnosed with that, even as we go through the changes, women, is go out and what? Take calcium and go out and exercise. Yeah, go out and walk, right? Because when you exercise, that's your body's way of building new bone, okay? And so it elevates bone mass. It decreases total LDL cholesterol, which is the bad stuff, and it raises the good cholesterol, better than drugs studies show. Increases energy level. This is key for everybody, but especially females. It enhances and balances hormone production. And the reason I want to pause here just for a second is because like when you look at kids. So I have 4 kids, but when you look at a kid, like they can eat whatever, right? Most kids can eat whatever they want, and skinny as a rail, right? That's because their hormone system is working for them. Exactly like God created it, the hormone system is working for them to help burn all that off. But the problem becomes when we live a lifestyle where we just damage and damage and damage, and what happens is whether it's our lifestyle through diet, whether it's our lifestyle through stress, whether it's a lot of reasons why we damage ourselves, but you burn out the hormone, or the glands, I should say, that is not only creates the hormones, but is meant to keep that balance, that homeostasis. Right, so especially as we age, your hormone system gets jacked up. So you can be doing all the right things. Like I hear this all the time, like, man, I'm eating all the right things, or man, I'm doing my workouts, or man, I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm still not getting results. That's because your hormone system's jacked up. So a lot of times what happens is we have to rebalance the hormone system, right? Then everything else we do, all the nutrition, all the exercise, all the essential, all the massage, all that stuff, it's all great, but all of that can now have its total effect once you balance everything out. Does that make sense? So as we exercise, everything starts to re-regulate. So what happens is if that's depleted, you have things like acne, skin disorders, things like hair growth or hair loss, aging, especially aging women, we talked about this. Anxiety or mental challenges, anytime that female issues, irregular menstrual cycles, problems conceiving, all of that, your hormones are jacked, okay? And so we have to figure out why, but then also how do we actually start to re-regulate how your body is created to perform. Sound good? Good. One cool thing too, speaking of hormones, when you exercise, the process of exercise activates something called telomerase. Telomerase is an anti-aging enzyme that helps inhibit gene mutations that's activated with people with cancer. So let me say that again. What it basically does is how your DNA is read. If you have enough telomerase in there, it will literally change any mutations that are in your genetic code. How freaking awesome is that? How God created your body to heal. Right? So cancer can run in my family, but how that DNA is actually read, so this might be a little bit deep, but how, whether your genes are turned on or turned off, I don't know if that's you've ever heard of that realm, but if your genes are turned on, so everyone in your family can be experiencing X, Y, Z, but if you have a different lifestyle that your body's actually starting to perform the way it's created to, right, then it doesn't necessarily have to follow suit with that lifestyle. Or with that, I should say, genetic code. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why, that's pretty sweet. I get excited about that. I get geeked out by that kind of stuff. Okay, increases stress tolerance, eliminates toxins. Obviously that natural detox, that lymphatic drainage reduces depression. So mood elevation, of course, we've all heard of things like endorphins, the feel-good hormones, things like fibromyalgia or people with chronic pain or people with chronic anxiety or depression. They notice obviously those signals that the nerve, the signals that the nerve says I hurt, those signals are often blocked when you exercise through the endorphins, which is pretty cool. And decreases risk to injury, muscle, and joint of your spine. So hopefully we're beginning to start thinking about committing to some form of exercise. So Dr. John Tyndon says, disease is due to autointoxication, self-poisoning. Autointoxication comes from use of medications, processed foods, beverages, impure water, food additives, dyes, insecticides, and household products. So I was researching some of the stuff on another talk that we have coming up, and I came across that we're on average exposed to 300,000 toxins a day. So if you think you're not toxic, think again, right? You can be doing all the right things, but it's like things that we don't even know that we're exposed to, right? Pretty crazy. Dr. Otto Warburg. So Dr. Otto Warburg is world renowned for, he actually won the Nobel Prize with his study on cancer in the 1930s. So he said, next to a well-functioning body through maximum nerve supply, exercise is the most important way of regular detoxification. Cells become sick, die, or mutate when denied adequate oxygen. So one thing with cancer is that they do not, remember we talked about the 4 things necessary for cell life, right? Food, water, air, all that. Cancer doesn't need air. In fact, they do better without it, right? They can multiply without air. So they produce their own lactic acid. They're like their own little environment. So they do like ozone therapy for people with cancer because you have to pump a bunch of oxygen in that person to help kill that cancer. So even every time you exercise, so again, I tend to think like this, or even with my kids, like that's why they typically come to the kids class, because like, man, their little bodies fighting cancer every day just like you and I are. It's like whether we have cancer or the diagnosis or not, it's like what do we do? We're either creating it or we're fighting it every second of every day, right? And exercise is a huge part of that as well. So, Dr. Warburg says, okay? So. All right, law of adaptation. So wrapping this portion up. So again, laws are proven, they're absolute, it's not a theory that comes and goes. So the law of adaptation, so to get fitter, stronger, leaner, muscular, or whatever, right? Cardiovascular system, heart, lungs, organs, and muscles, they all adapt what we do or don't do to it. So when you look at a power lifter versus like a marathoner, very different bodies, right? So very strong, short, explosive muscles that can like squat 700 pounds but can't run 3 flights of steps. Or you have a marathoner that's like super lean and scrawny, can't roll 200 but can take like 10 flights of steps very easily. So obviously adaptation is very different. So if you're working out and you don't have grips or don't use grips, what do you create? Your own grips, right? In the form of calluses. So adaptation is a very important, necessary thing for survival. So even like when germs go around, you've got to adapt to that. You look at household plants, right? They all grow towards the sun. So if we're not adapting, we die. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So same thing with all the cells and all the organs. So we have to be very careful what we're allowing our bodies to adapt to. So, Landon.
Okay.
Wait, do you want to do this real quick?
Yeah, we do.
707762. Oh my gosh. All right, 707751. Bueller? Oh, wow. It's a flirt. 707756.
Oh, over here.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
you might already have that one. 707754.
What are you throwing at me?
I'm ready. Bam. You're welcome. 707747.
Here.
Present. Present. Oh, you wanted to catch it? My bad.
Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Landon. Landon Walker, the owner of the gym here. We run classes on this side. We do the 24-hour side. If you guys didn't get a chance to walk through there, we're going to go over exercise today. Exercise is actually much more simple than most people think, especially when you're getting started. You're kind of like, oh man, what movements do I do? How do I do it? For how long do I do it? It can be overwhelming. It can be one of those things where you start up and then you stop very quickly because you're not really sure where to go. It's not that difficult. once you have an idea of what to do. Does any of you guys wear the watches that will show your heart rate throughout the day? Most part, you can pick them up for like $25 on Amazon. Super cheap. It's something that's going to give you a direct indication of what you're doing in your workouts, how you're doing it, and then ultimately your results that you're going to get from the workouts that you're doing. So exercise, what is it? Exercise relies on frequency, intensity, and duration. What are you doing? How long are you doing it? And what intensity are you doing that exercise? That's all it is. It's not really how often you exercise, but more about your heart rate when you are doing that stuff. Someone that goes out and walks their dog every day, 5-7 days a week, and still wondering why they're not getting any results or getting any thinner, well, their heart rate's staying constantly at that resting heart rate. So we have heart rate zones. 4 heart rate zones we're going to go over today, and we're going to start with heart rate zone number 4, which is the bottom. This will be the one that you're very rarely there. This would be more like your sprinting athletes, where it's a max heart rate. They're at like 90 to 100% of your max heart rate. And when you say, well, what is my max heart rate? How do we figure that out? Very simple calculation would be 220 minus your age. That's going to give you a ballpark. And then from there, we'll run off percentages of that number that is for you to hit these different zones during your workouts. So zone 4, 90 to 100% of your heart rate. At that pace, you're unable to speak. You're unable to connect any words together. That's a good indication. If you can't talk to somebody or can't say really even a word, you're at that max heart rate. Something where you're at a couple minutes and then you have to slow down and almost rest to get it to come back down to even do anything from there. At this zone in zone 4, your body is fueled off of 90% carbs, 10% fat, 90 carbs, less than 1% of fat, and this is almost a delusional state where your body, not only your mind, but your muscles is just super fatigued. So let's go to zone 1. Zone 1 is going to be your resting heart rate. This is going to be like 50 to 60% of your max heart rate. Somewhere in that range, you might find that when you start to go exercising, it's upward of that 60% range. As you start exercising, that resting heart rate should come down. Meg talked a little bit about that. If your heart rate's super high at resting constantly, it's taking years off your life. What's people like that? So your number will get closer to that 50% as you go through and continue exercising. At this resting heart rate, it'd be like sitting here. You can carry on a full conversation. You have no issues. And then at this, what your body's fueled off of at the resting heart rate is 10% carbs, 5% protein, and 85% fat. So this is where you'll find that like close to or type 2 diabetics, if you're always resting heart rate, you're never burning off of, you're only 10% carbs all the time, and that's kind of your enemy at that point is the carbs, so you're not burning anything off of that. Zone 2 and 3, this is gonna kind of be the sweet point. You get into zone 2 and 3, it's gonna be something that you'll work at a lot in that zone 2 or 3, depending on the day. This is the fat utilization rate, or the fitness heart rate zone. 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. You're breathing heavily, but you can still able to speak in sentences at this point. Be like a faster jog. Your body is fueled off of 85% fat, still 5 protein, and 10 carbs. So it's very close to that zone 1 as far as what you're burning. A little bit higher on the carbs on that one. And then so when we get into the zone 3, I think this is the absolute like perfect spot to where you'll spend 3 out of the 7 days of your workouts in that zone. At this one, it's 80 to 90% of your max heart rate. Unable to speak except for broken words during there. Your body is fueled off of, and here we are, 50% fat, 50 to 85% carbs, depending on where you're at between that 80 and 90%. So you're burning a lot more carbs. So that's why we talk about the type 2 diabetes. If you have high blood sugar, we get you to that zone 3 as quickly as possible, as quickly as you can allow, because then we know we're burning those carbs very quickly. We're taking that away from your body that's affecting you. And in this duration, 10 to 20 minute frame in that heart rate is usually a pretty good spot. 10 to 20 minutes is usually what someone can keep consistently. And then we have, what have we already had? That was zone 3. Now I have a board up here. I wanted to show you guys. This is kind of a layout. So you say, oh gosh, so when do I throw these days in and how do I go about it? This is just a good chart of how you guys do it. So Monday, rest day. dog walk. It's not exercise. You're just moving around. Tuesday, we get to we're in zone 3. Okay, so 80 to 90%. But we're gonna do an interval where you're only gonna be working for 30 seconds, and then you're gonna get 2 minutes off, 2 minutes of recovery. So you're not working very long. So in this time, it's something where you're gonna be doing something very fast paced to get that heart rate to that 80, 90%, and then you're gonna bring back down. But you're gonna see as we go through, and then so you go through this 8 times. Wednesday, we have a recovery day. You're in zone 2, 30 to 45 minutes consistently of moving. So that one you are gonna be much longer, but we're bringing the heart rate down a little bit and for an extended period of time. We get to Thursday, we are in zone 3, and then so we're switching it up. We're back in zone 3, but now all of a sudden we're doing 8 minutes on and 2 minutes of recovery. Totally different. The intensity has to be much higher up here than it is here because you can't keep that as long if it's super, super vigorous. We get to Friday, we have a recovery day. We're in zone 2 again, 30 to 45 minute range. Much longer, but lower heart rate. We get Saturday, 20 to 30 minutes in zone 3. That's a challenging day. 20 to 30 minutes, I told you guys 10 to 20 minutes in zone 3 is pretty challenging. So 20 to the 30 minute range might not be doable for a while, but it's something you can build up as you go. And then Sunday, always a recovery day. That's not day. So do you guys have any questions on the certain zones? Because I know it can be confusing on where you want to be at on these, but if you keep a certain cycle like this on Monday through Friday time frame, and you seriously just run it off your heart rate, it doesn't matter which movement you're doing. If you're squatting, you're doing push-ups, the movements don't so much matter as at that heart rate where it's at and get the benefits from it.
So what do you have to do to get those certain things a heart rate?
That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter whether you run or you jog or you walk up a flight of stairs or do push-ups. I would say as long as you're switching up how we did like the time domains, where you're doing it for so long, and as long as that intensity level meets that heart rate, that's all I want you to do. Now you can get into where how you.
In zone 4, I walk up a lighthouse steps. That gets me to zone 4.
If you're in zone 4, you physically have to stop at a certain point. A couple minutes
But
into that.
when I get to the top, I am like
Sit down and rest.
not breathing and
Yeah. So it's that easy, guys. It really is. Exercise is that easy. If you can do, I always tell everybody when they're coming in, 3 months, if you're not already doing something, but 3 months of following something like this, I can assure you, you will see results. Not only see, but feel. Yeah.
Currently, I'm in between zones like 2 and 3, like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We go to exercise class.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What else would you suggest that I add? Like, and what on, say, Thursday, Friday, or even a Friday, or should I take Thursday off?
Are you more towards,
basically-
during those days, 2 to 3, which one do you think you're more towards?
More towards 2. I mean, it
Okay.
depends on, what we're doing. I do water aerobics.
Okay.
And so like Mondays and Tuesdays are pretty much between zones 2, occasionally we'll get up to zone 3, but Wednesdays are usually more zone 3.
Okay.
So, what else can I add?
I like the 3 days of zone 3.
Okay.
Definitely into the zone 3, not kind of like between 2 and 3, into that zone 3 for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
The 3 days, and then whatever you do with the other ones in between there, within those 2 zones is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Because in zone 2 is not going to beat up on you as much as far as like joints and stuff like that. It seems to be a little bit lower impact when you're in that zone.
Can I add something to that too?
Yeah.
One thing too so he's talking a lot about like the cardiovascular, like getting your heart rate up, which will burn fat, which is good. So a lot of times people that we see, like whether we're doing like an elliptical or like he's like just minimal, like a light, fast maybe walk on the treadmill, and you aren't seeing those changes, like he's saying, like increase that zone. But the other thing is like making sure that weight bearing exercises are important too, because the more lean muscle you have, that will increase your basal metabolic rate. So like I was always into marathons. I would run all the time, but I'm like, I didn't have a lot of like weight bearing exercise in there. And so I was like, man, I'm just not having that physique look that I wanted. But then when you started doing weight training and doing that, I could figure it out, like I can do a lot less cardio and maybe just get it up get my heart rate up, but then do the weight training, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, because we'll even like in one of our classes, we'll do, we have that group warm up, and then we'll do some style of strength normally, where we are lifting weights. Everybody's doing their own version of that, and then a lot of our what we call metcon or conditioning, where we're going into these zones, will be very short, 10 to 15 minutes, regardless of the zone we're trying to get in there. It's pretty short during that because we're doing the weight bearing with the weights as well before that. Any other questions? Do we have to do any raffles, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do one.
Everyone's a winner.
749. No one?
What?
7749?
Oh.
Come on, Peter, jeez. Yeah,
He doesn't know his numbers.
We've almost given the word out, I think, to everybody here. 7761. There you go. Now you can pull one more.
go for it.
7746. Okay, what?
Aw, Jess.
You want to know too.
I did.
No one has any other questions about anything exercise
I'll leave
related?
it a water bottle.
No?
Come on.
Well,
Yeah, I got a question.
I don't know anything about zone 1 through 4. Where is this written down anywhere?
Yeah, it's on your
It's on the,
paper.
it's on the, it's on the
It's
sheet.
like, I didn't get that far. I thought,
Yeah, no, that's okay.
oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that stuff you
Are
can
those
take
percentages on there? I guess, yeah, they are all on there. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
not like the
Okay,
10%,
down there at the
that kind of
bottom.
stuff, but
Oh, I don't think that's a big deal.
it's just basically what your body burns for energy in those different zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would suggest that you guys, if you do have the watches, or even if you don't, figure out that max heart rate. Get your watch if you don't already have one. And then if you're already exercising, start to look at that. After your workout, see where you're kind of at, and then you can kind of get a gauge for yourself. And then you can switch it up to meet those goals.
I got a question. On a lot of these exercises, I don't have my body doesn't, I stand to do too much stuff, it feels like where my pelvis meets my spine, it's like I'm being cut in half.
Is there something you like to do? Like to do that's just moving in general, or an activity that you prefer?
I walk a lot.
But how long can you walk before you say you are hurting?
Oh, it depends on the terrain.
So even if you got on something like a recumbent bike or something like that had some resistance in it, or you talk about some
On the
weight training,
recumbent bike, I think after about 10 minutes, my back is shot.
and maybe that's where you start, and from there we just try to get better and see if things will get stronger. And
Because I have a bad